Senator French in about 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And we're live on YouTube, Senator French, so you should be all set.
Great, thank you very much. I'd like to welcome you. I am Harold French, Senator from District 7. Today, we will be holding a meeting of the Senate Commerce Committee. It is January 19th at 9 a.m. Before we get started, I'll read through a checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the right to know law. As chair of the Commerce Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-4 and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's executive emergency order. In accordance with that emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform, and the public has access also to contemporaneously watch and or listen to the meeting on Zoom or YouTube and via phone by following the directions and links provided on the General Court website. We have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remotesenate@leg.state.nh.us or call, which is probably better, 603-271-6931. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, it will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Finally, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. Each member states their presence. Please also state where they are and if anyone else is in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. I'll start the roll call. Senator Bradley.
Yes, Jeb Bradley here. I'm in the room with Napoleon and in the house is with Karen.
Senator Susie.
This is Donna Susie. I am at my home in Manchester and I am alone.
Senator Gannon.
I am Senator Bill Gannon. I'm in Sandown, New Hampshire in my home. My wife's working out of the house today and I have 2 kids zooming into Timberland.
Senator Kavanaugh.
Hello, Kevin Kavanaugh. At my home in Manchester. I'm in the room alone, but my family is around the house.
I'm Senator French. I am home in Canterbury, and we do have people in the house, but not in the room with me. So thank you and welcome. I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 35, and we'll have the sponsor, Senator Kavanaugh, introduce it, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Again, my name is Kevin Kavanaugh, Senator from District 16, making up the towns of Bow, Candia, Dunbar, and Hooksett in Manchester wards 1, 2, and 12. And thank you for having me, and thanks for meeting remote like this. So what this bill does, it allows founding organizations of existing pool risk management programs to obtain certain coverage through the risk pool if the governing board approves their participation. So what it does is NEA approached me last year. They were a co-founder for School Care with them, along with other education associations, school board associations, and school administrators associations. And this was done to help provide other options for to help lower healthcare costs to school districts and their employees. Out of the 5 associations, the only one that cannot participate with their employees is NEA New Hampshire. They are the ones that wanted me to put this in last year. And we worked last year with the Secretary of State's office on the language to make sure they were comfortable with it. I reached out this year, but it was late with the holiday, and I haven't got a response. So hopefully they sign in and support. I'm hoping last year they did, but it just got caught up with everything with COVID. If this passes, the governing board that manages the risk management program still has to give approval. So this bill won't take away any approval of that board. It's supposed to go to the board. It just allows them to be able to say yes or no to NEA New Hampshire. So that's really all I have. If I'll take any questions if I can answer them. If not, hopefully I have some experts behind me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Bradley.
Yes, thank you. Senator Kavanaugh, I just want to confirm on line 15 of the bill, or actually it's on line 17 of the bill, the governing board is of the risk pool, not in this case, the NEA. So it's the governing board of the risk pool that has the discretion as to whether to allow it in or not.
Correct. The board would give the approval or denial. The NEA would have to ask that board if they can approve.
Okay. All right. I just want to confirm that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Susie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to clarify, Senator Kavanaugh, my recollection when we discussed this bill last year, this is the only entity that currently is not able to participate in a risk pool that it founded. So this legislation would not open up the floodgates to risk pools getting requests. It's quite limiting, as I understand it.
Correct. There's the 5 original founding associations, and 4 are allowed in. The NEA is the only one that's not. That's the only one that would open up to that one more, with the total of 5 being the 4 that are already participating.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Kavanaugh, you're dismissed and you may take your seat.
Thank you. See you guys next week. Thank you.
Cameron?
Okay, the next person on my list is Barry Glennon from the Secretary of State's office. I believe that this is Barry. You should, on the phone, you should be able to unmute yourself. If you're Barry, which I believe you are. Okay, it doesn't
Good.
look.
Thank you for your testimony. Next.
Okay, let's go to the next person on my list, who is Brian Hawkins, who I see right there. Brian, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Terrific. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Senate Commerce Committee. My name is Brian Hawkins. I'm Zooming before you today, representing NEA New Hampshire. We represent over 17,000 members across New Hampshire in collective bargaining. There are many of the amazing educators in public education in our state. 26 years ago, School Care was founded as the New Hampshire School Care Coalition. It was founded when the executive director of NEA New Hampshire at the time approached the School Boards Association, other associations representing management related to school districts to respond to what they felt was a need to have more choice when accessing healthcare for school employees, as well as to hopefully create some more affordable options for health insurance, something that would benefit school districts, their school employees, and taxpayers. And as Senator Kavanaugh mentioned, this particular partnership was founded by the New Hampshire Association of School Business Officials, the School Boards Association, the School Boards Insurance Trust, the New Hampshire School Administrators Association, and NEA New Hampshire. The goal was to have a true labor management enterprise in seeking to provide school districts and other political subdivisions options that were a good fit for them for their healthcare needs. And over the last 26 years now, we feel this coalition has been a truly successful one. It's been a collaborative one and one that's worked well towards what it was intended to do. Now, again, as Senator Kavanaugh mentioned, of those founding members that I mentioned, there was only one of those organizations cannot participate in the risk pool for their own employees, and that is NEA New Hampshire. If you're the School Boards Association, for example, you're allowed to participate in that pool for your employees. Consequently, if you're in the other public risk pool that exists, the Health Trust, same thing with the Municipal Association as an employer for their employees. So the bill seeks to correct this issue by allowing the founding organizations of existing pool risk management programs to participate in specifically the health and life insurances. You'll see the Roman 3 references F and G of the 5B statute. So this does not get into allowing other insurance areas like workers' comp and some of the other areas that 5B allows for under risk pools. Again, this is really acknowledging the integral part that that founding members have in allowing an organization to participate in the pool. I think, as Senator Kavanaugh mentioned, this bill is narrowly tailored to Senator Susi's question earlier, so as not to enable a dramatic expansion of who can participate in these risk pools that are covered under 5B. And it has that extra layer of safeguard, which requires the board of the risk pool who has fiduciary responsibility over the pool. It also requires their ultimate approval as well. So throughout the process of drafting this last year, we've been in communication with our partners at School Care, as well as Secretary Gardner and his office. So I would just close by saying I want to thank the representatives from School Care, and I think Health Trust as well, who may have signed in, as well as Secretary Gardner and his staff for working with us on this issue, and Senator Kavanaugh for bringing the bill forward. With that, I'll close my testimony and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak, Cameron?
So, Senator, I was able to communicate with Barry Glennon off on the side. Let me bring him back and see if he's able to communicate. Now, Barry, there you go. Looks like you're unmuted.
Terrific. Thank you, Cameron. Can the committee hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Terrific.
It looks like he hung up. Okay.
You want to try him again?
Yeah, he's no longer in the call. It looks like he hung up. Let me hold on 1 second. I think he just emailed me. All right, he is no longer in the call.
Can you
Okay.
try to reach him, Cameron? Not that I have any questions of him. I'd just like to make sure that their office is fully on board with this, that's all. Sounds as if they are, but.
I just emailed him. While we wait, Senator French, there is a hand raised from an N. Abrahams.
Sure.
All right, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I work in the Bureau of Securities Regulation, and I'm assisting our director, Barry Glennon, to get on his comment. So can you just hold on 1 second?
Sure. Thank you.
Hello, Cameron, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Terrific. Thank you very much, members of the committee, and I do apologize for this. We had learned of the bill from Senator Kavanaugh, and we're now just getting to responding. So thank you very much for your time. Having contacted and been in touch with the Secretary of State relative to this proposed legislation, we continue to support Senator Kavanaugh's bill. We think that it's a great opportunity for the NEA to be able to participate within the risk pool. And I do believe that there is necessary control there to the extent that the Board of School Care can decide whether to allow them in or not. And I believe that, can't speak on behalf of School Care, but I know that they were supportive last time. We would, however, if possible, would like to have some additional time because we are working on a short amendment that we would hope to be able to introduce to the committee. So we would ask if that is at all possible for the committee, just to give us an additional amount of time to submit that to you. That concludes my testimony. Be happy to answer any questions, Representative French.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Oh, and that's Senator French, I'm sorry.
You know, it's all the same to me.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Cameron?
I have no one else signed up to speak. There is someone on the phone with their hand raised. It's a 271 number.
Take it.
All right, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go. Is there anyone there?
That was probably from before.
Okay, let's get.
Okay, we had two members of the public that do not want to speak. Lisa Duquette is in support and David Friedman is neutral. Seeing no other input, I will close this hearing on Senate Bill 35. That brings us up to one of my favorite senators' bills. Bill, you want to take over for a minute?
Yes.
And open Senate Bill 36.
Yeah, I would like to open Senate Bill 36 relative to the residency under auto insurance policies, and the Honorable Harold French will bring forth the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And for the record, my name is Harold French, Senator from District 7, speaking to you from lovely Canterbury, New Hampshire. I'd like to introduce Senate Bill 36. This bill repeals the requirement that applicants for coverage under New Hampshire policies of automobile insurance sign statements of residency. It deals with that annoying paper that if you phone in to get your insurance, you actually have to watch the mail for this letter to come to you and sign it and return it. Or you have to race into your insurance agency and sign it just to prove or state that you're a resident. They don't take your word. This is a put in place, or this is introduced on behalf of the insurance department, and they will be here to testify to it. Thank you very much.
Does anyone in the committee have any questions for Senator French?
Never mind. No, I'm fine.
Okay. I do if no one else does. Okay. Senator French, I just, I'm worried a little bit about people from Mass coming up here and insuring cars here and creating a more risky pool for our insurance industry, more accidents. I'm afraid my neighbor's rates going up because people will be more apt to cheat if they don't have to sign something. What's your opinion? Are my worries not
Founded on solid ground? I would think so, Senator. If you if you look at the bill on 4, if that were to happen, I believe the way it reads is they would not be covered under their insurance. So they'd be taking a great risk by doing that. But I'd leave
Yeah,
that
no,
for
I
the
see,
insurance.
I see on line 6 exclusively garaged in New Hampshire. I just always think people are more honest when they have to sign a signature, but that's just me.
Yeah. Ask the department. I think they could give you the actual statistical data on that.
Sure. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? Okay, thank you, Senator French, for your testimony.
You. Cameron?
Okay,
back.
so the next person on my list is James Fox from the Department of Insurance. James, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. My name is James Fox. I'm the P&C Director at the New Hampshire Insurance Department. And this bill is another one of our, what we call our modernization bills, and it does have to do with a form. The 2 standards in New Hampshire for obtaining a personal lines New Hampshire auto policy. So first of all, what we're talking about is personal lines auto policies, not commercial lines auto policies. Is 1, you'd have to be a resident of the state under 1400, which is one of our rules, or 2, your vehicle has to be exclusively garaged in New Hampshire. All those standards are going to remain the same. As Chairperson French said, the only issue is we're removing the form. This basic standard for these, for eligibility, the residency of the exclusively garage is in place in all 50 states. We're the only state with the residency form. Now there was, I know Senator Gannon had mentioned the issue of if the form actually stops people from trying to obtain New Hampshire insurance policies. The department's position is it does not. We do many exams on the insurance, and we have not really found that there's any type of what's called rate evasion, people trying to obtain New Hampshire insurance policies. There's also the issue of it's not always cheaper in New Hampshire. A lot of this has to do with location. So I don't think it's an across the board people know to like come in for cheaper insurance. It can be cheaper, but a lot of it has to do with location. And the other thing is the insurance companies and the agents in the digital age have a greater ability to determine where people live. And the insurance companies, much like the state, align and they want to make sure people have the right policies in the right states. Really, so what this comes down to is really a paperwork issue. And another reason for the modernization is, as Chairperson French said, that people have to sign these forms and then return them various different ways. And the actual anti-consumer piece of this is that sometimes it's very difficult for the insurance companies, because we are the only state that requires this, to actually recognize these forms. Yet, in essence, misplaced. What they do have is they have a procedure for then canceling people. So you have consumers who submit these forms and then they get canceled anyway because the insurance company doesn't know they have the form. You also have insurance companies like State Farm, where because they insure each vehicle separately, they have to have people coming in multiple times to try to insure the same vehicle that they're residents. So taking a look at the big picture, the department would like to remove this form, which, as I said, doesn't exist in commercial lines and really doesn't exist in any other area of insurance as far as upfront proof. I guess that's the department's testimony. And also Emily Doherty was going to testify, but since I just covered the waterfront, I went first, she's not going to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Cameron?
Okay, since Emily Doherty is not testifying, the next person on my list is Michael McLaughlin. Let me see here, Michael McLaughlin. All right, Michael, you should be able to unmute yourself. All right, he is not responding. Let's move on to the next person on my list, James Haddam. James, let's see here. Oh. Okay, James, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Cameron. I assume you can hear me now?
Yep.
Thank you for that. For the record, Jim Hatem, testifying on behalf of State Farm. And frankly, I can't tell, can you folks see me, or I can certainly see you? I just don't know.
No,
You can.
no,
Can't
yeah,
see
not.
or hear you.
All right, well, guess I don't have to put on a tie next time. Well, thank you. And I just wanted, so for the record, I'm here in support of this bill for State Farm insurance companies. And I think the testimony so far has supported a lot of some of what I'm going to say. So I'll just hit some high points. This law has been in place for approximately 20 years. And it has been the biggest issue for State Farm agents throughout New Hampshire. It is the 50 or 60 mom and pop agencies that sell State Farm insurance in New Hampshire. And State Farm, because of the way it builds its systems, requires this form for every time you buy a new car, every time you add a trailer, sell a car, every time. And it's been a huge bureaucratic issue for State Farm and its agents, and they will be very happy to see this bill pass. Senator Gannon, in the 20 years that I've been monitoring this law and this bill, there's only been one claim that's been affected by the lack of an insurance, a residency form, or a misstated or a fraudulent residency form. So 20 years, it's only mattered once. And that, and so, you know, this is a form that was put in place for a purpose long served a long time ago, and it no longer serves a useful purpose. And we thoroughly and wholeheartedly support the passage of this.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Cameron, did Michael come back on?
Let me try him here. I believe he did. Let's bring him in. Michael, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Good morning, Cameron. Thank you. Can you hear me now, as they say in TV?
Yes.
Good. I had my phone to my ear. I'm trying to had double listening. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Mike McLaughlin. I represent Allstate Insurance. The only concern we had with the bill was some of the language in the drafting, which would make it very, very difficult for any action against a non-resident with New Hampshire insurance, that being the word exclusively garaged in New Hampshire on line 6. And on line 8, the word intentionally misrepresented their residency. The exclusively garage term is not defined anywhere in the law. So the question of what an exclusive garaging situation would be is undefined. And the intentionally misrepresented, again, is a higher standard than a simple misrepresentation. So as you look at the law, if we do ever have the opportunity, occasion to move against somebody who has taken advantage of the New Hampshire situation, those words are kind of aren't really words of art. There's no definition for them in the law, but it raises the standard of proof. And Jim had mentioned earlier that I was involved as well in the 2002 discussion of this issue. And at that point in time, there were a lot of reports of a lot of New Hampshire plates in Boston and Cambridge and around that area, because it was the garaging issue and not just coming to New Hampshire. People were, registering cars who were living in Boston. So we have no problem with the bill, other than to point out the fact that some of the language in the bill is going to make it very, very difficult to prove that somebody exclusively garages. I mean, how long do you have to be exclusive? Can you be there 26 weeks, 12 weeks, 12 hours? Who knows? So that is an undefined term in the statute. And those are our only comments. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions from any of the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. Cameron?
I don't have anyone else signed up. However, Lindsay Nato has her hand raised.
Go ahead.
Lindsay, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Cam. Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Lindsay Nadeau, and I just briefly wanted to testify in support of the bill. We represent the New Hampshire Association of Domestic Insurance Companies, and we do support the department's proposal. So I just wanted to state that for the record.
Thank you.
Senator
Bradley
has his-
has a question.
Senator Bradley, you're muted.
Sorry, Cam. Could we get the insurance department back on to address Mr. McLaughlin's issue, because what he raised is in existing law?
Cameron, you're muted.
Let me grab James Fox. There he is. James, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, again, this is James Fox. Yeah, the exclusivity garage piece, that's been the standard when you sign the form, and the rule, I don't think it goes any more detail on exclusivity garage. I think we rely on, as the Supreme Court says, just the plain language of exclusivity garage. If you exclusively garage, you exclusively garage. It's just garage here. Intentional, I mean, the 412.9 use of intentional, the goals of that is that statute is really designed to block people from having coverage. So in the off chance we have someone who unintentionally or negligently happened to get a New Hampshire policy and didn't understand, we really wouldn't want to, have them be uninsured. This is designed for the bad actor.
So if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So, Mr. Fox, you don't think there's a need then to define the term exclusively garage because of the way it's been interpreted under New Hampshire law for 20 plus years?
I would agree with that statement.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Fox. Were there any other speakers or anyone else wishing to speak?
I do not see anyone. If you do, you can raise your hand in Zoom or press *9 if you're on the phone. I'm not seeing anything, Senator.
Then we'll wrap it up.
Senator Bradley has his hand
Mr.
raised.
Chairman,
Senator French.
could I just make a suggestion that when the hearing report gets adopted, that the Q&A that I just had with the insurance department gets highlighted for creation of the legislative intent?
I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. We have Senator Geider, who is in support, doesn't wish to speak. Senator Reagan in support, doesn't want to speak. Rodney Mobley in support. Senator Hennessy in support. Senator Riccardi in support. Chris Nicolopoulos in support, and Alvin C. in opposition. That concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 36, and I will close this hearing. Cameron, I suppose that puts us at 37.
That does.
And we're on time?
That one is scheduled to start at 9:20. It is 9:36.
Very good. Thank you very much. I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 37, and we'll have the illustrious Senator Gannon introduce it.
Thank you, Chairman French. Senate Bill 37 is a common sense bipartisan effort just for truth in labeling. And so people, when they're at the dispensaries, know what they're getting. The people who are handing out the marijuana will know they'll know what's contained in it. They'll know that it hasn't been inspected. We want people who are buying a product to have knowledge about what they're buying, and people selling it to have the same knowledge. We want the marijuana to be distributed in a safe and effective manner. We were asked, Senator Geider and I were asked to, it's an alliance and organization of doctors, lawyers, healthcare workers, other citizens, again, a bipartisan group, just wants safe marijuana distribution. I and Senator Lasky in 2018 spent the better part of a year on the Marijuana Commission, and pretty much all stakeholders were in agreement that truth in labeling was very acceptable and was encouraged and was what we wanted. So I brought this legislation forth, and on behalf of a few other people, and they're going to testify after me and probably have a lot more knowledge on the subject than I do. That's it, Senator French.
Thank you, Senator. Any
Thank you.
questions from the committee? Thank you very much. Cameron, who's first or second to speak?
The next person on my list is Michael Holt from the Department of Health and Human Services. Michael, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Good morning, Senators. My name is Michael Holt. I'm representing the Department of Health and Human Services. I am the administrator for the department's therapeutic cannabis program. The department is neutral on this bill, so my testimony today is informational, and largely is to say that this bill is codifying current practice. The department supports accurate labeling, warnings on labels, and providing information to patients and caregivers. Everything that is in this bill is already being done through an administrative rule. In fact, excuse me, lines 9 through 15 are a direct pull from our administrative rules. What this would do is codify a warning label in statute. We're already doing this. We already inspect on this. Lines 16 through 23 require side effects and risks of use to be printed on a label as well. This information is required to be provided to every patient. It is not currently required to be on a label. That is because there is no room to put all this stuff on the label. Most pharmaceutical products come with a handout to list side effects. So at minimum, the department would request that lines 16 through 23 be amended to say that this information shall be provided, but not required to be placed on the label itself due to space concern. I'd also like to add that there is currently a Therapeutic Cannabis Medical Oversight Board that is in existence, created by the legislature, for which this kind of clinical and quality and public health information is right up their alley. We learned of this bill last week. The board has not had a chance to review the list of side effects that are being attempted being codified in statute here. They're a panel of experts, 10 clinicians representing 10 clinical specialties. In fact, they have done this past year, worked on provider education documents to tell providers about the cannabis program, including side effects. They are intending, at their last meeting 2 weeks ago, they identified a thorough review of all ATC educational materials and handouts for their work plan for this year, which would include side effects of cannabis. So again, this is work that is being done, is currently being reviewed by the statutorily mandated Therapeutic Cannabis Oversight Board. My concern here is that this is a redundant bill when we have greater priorities in the state to look at. The last point I would make is that the last section of the bill, section 3, lines 24 through 29, do create a fiscal impact for the department to come up with glossy posters and brochures. Again, information that would be a cost to us that would be redundant with what is already being provided to patients at the dispensaries. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions about the bill, the program, or our neutral position. I mean, I'll conclude by saying this is exactly what we want. This is exactly what we've been doing for the past 5 years that the program's been in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holt. Any questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. Cameron?
Okay, the next person on the list is Kate Fry. However, I was told she's no longer planning on testifying. Kate, if I got that wrong, raise your hand. Okay, her hand is down. The next person on my list is David Cyrek, who has just raised, I believe this is David. Go ahead and unmute yourself. On the phone, that would be stars. There you go.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear
Very
me?
good, thank you. Yep, we can. Go ahead.
Good. I don't really have much. I agree with Mike Holt. This is really a redundant bill. I guess, regarding sanctuary TC in terms of A and B, we're already acting on those. In addition to C as well, many of the side effects are already being acted on, and the patients have access to that. So I don't think glossy posters are really necessary as well. I guess my only concern is some of the listed side effects, such as suicide, psychosis, schizophrenia, heart failure, cardiac arrhythmias, which are really unlikely. I know this was looked at by the oversight board, but in my opinion, very unlikely with just cannabis alone, unless there is an underlying disease state, comorbid condition, or genetic predisposition in an individual. What I think what some of the sense to the patient is that it's sort of a scary message that, even though your doctor or healthcare provider certified you for therapeutic cannabis, but look how dangerous it is. I mean, some of these side effects can actually kill you. And we know for a fact that cannabis is one of the safest medicines on the planet. It has an LD50 which is in the millions, and the higher the LD50, the safer the drug is, versus caffeine, for instance, which has an LD50 of 200. So I guess it's just the verbiage and some of that kind of concerns me. And if a patient sees that, it can really scare them I really think it's unnecessary. That's my only concern. I mean, other than that, I agree totally 100% with Mike Holt. And I just think maybe the oversight board could look at that, those conditions as well. And I think in terms, for instance, of psychosis and schizophrenia, I mean, that was looked at the Lancet Journal in England, and that was a flawed study. And I think a lot of people point to that study, but that was definitely a flawed study. So that's kind of my only gripe with that. I mean, other than that, many of the other side effects are legitimate with cannabis, and that was my only concern. But I totally agree with Mike Holt that this is sort of a redundant bill. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening to me.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. Anyone else, Cameron?
That is everyone I have signed up. If there's anyone else who wants to speak, you can raise your hand in Zoom or press *9 if you're on the phone. I am not seeing anything.
And we also had in support Senator Bob Guider, Senator Ruth Ward, and in opposition was Alvin C. I will now close this hearing on Senate Bill 37. We have time for 38?
No, we have to we have 5 minutes before Senate Bill 38 is scheduled to start at 9:50. Senator Bradley has his hand raised, Senator French.
Yes, Senator.
Since we have 5 minutes, I'll move that we go into executive session.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. Take a roll call. Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Senator French says yes. I think we should hold off on Senate Bill 35 until we can get final language. Everyone agree with that? Okay.
So I would move ought to pass on Senate Bill 36.
Second,
Second.
seconded by Gannon. All in favor? Well, we'll take a roll call. Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
and Senator French says yes.
I move consent.
Second.
Sent by Bradley, seconded by Susie. Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh. Was that a yes?
Yes, sorry.
Yes. Senator Gannon,
Yes.
Senator French says yes. I'll take it out.
Okay.
How about
Do we
37?
still have any time or,
Looks like we still have 3 minutes.
so can we discuss Senate Bill 37?
Yeah, I'm not pushing for it hugely. I knew it was redundant, but I thought it needed to be codified. So I was told that it needed to be codified. So that was why we brought it forward. After hearing the testimony, and I talked to some of the people over the weekend, I don't really see the need as much as I thought there was.
Well, in that case, I'll move in expedient.
Second.
Second by Gannon. Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh, Senator Gannon,
Yes.
Senator French also yes.
I would
I
move,
move consent.
Consent by Bradley, seconded by Susie. Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes,
and Senator French says yes. Motion to come out of executive session.
Senator French, who do you want to take that bill out?
I will have Senator Gannon take that out.
Okay.
All right, Bill? Do I have a motion?
I move that we come out of exec.
second?
Motion by Bradley, seconded by Kavanaugh. All in favor, Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Senator French, yes. Thank you very much. We're almost on time to pick up 38. What do we have, a few more minutes?
On my computer, it is 9:50, so we are good to go if you are.
I am. I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 38 and Senator Avard. Is he with us?
He is. Senator Avard, you should be able to unmute yourself.
How am I doing?
You're
You
doing
are
great.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good morning.
All right. So you ready?
We're ready.
All right. Senate Bill 38. Senate Bill 38 asks that the New Hampshire Licensing Alternative Treatment Centers be allowed to conduct their activities as traditional New Hampshire businesses. Today, they're required to operate as a not-for-profit corporations, but receive none of the benefits of not-for-profit status. The one thing that not-for-profit status guarantees is that the New Hampshire citizens suffering from chronic pain will continue to pay more than they have to for relief. This bill came before the legislature last year in Commerce Committee and it passed. However, it did not cross over to the Senate due to COVID. It died on the table with hundreds of other bills and as a result of the pandemic. So today, New Hampshire Alternative Treatment Centers are serving thousands of New Hampshire citizens, yet they cannot raise money by traditional means such as having investors. They must borrow money at higher rates, for instance, of 15% or more. Commercial funds are not available due to the federal banking regulations. So the net result is that New Hampshire Alternative Treatment Centers must pay creditors money that otherwise could be used to lower and better serve lower prices and serve the New Hampshire citizens better. In my opinion, there's no downside to passing SB 38. The only results will lower prices to patients that require this medicine. All current regulations of therapeutic cannabis will remain in place, and so I'm asking you to please pass it. I don't know the technicalities of corporations. I know there are people that will be testifying after. So I'll leave any technical questions to them. You have any non-technical questions, Senator French?
Yes, thank you. Is it raining at your house?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. The sun is shining.
Any questions from the committee? No, we're all set. Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you.
Cameron?
Okay, the next person on the list is Tom Donovan from the Attorney General's office. Tom, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, I am. Can everybody hear me?
We can, thank you.
Good morning, senators. This is Tom Donovan. I'm the Director of Charitable Trusts at the Attorney General's office. I am glad that Senator Avard was able to do the history of this bill because I'm familiar with it, having testified at least once, maybe twice. This bill is in various forms has come before the House and I think maybe the Senate in past years. We take no position on this bill from the Attorney General's office. However, there was some discussion with concerns that Charitable Trusts has with respect to these organizations. And I'll just take a minute, if I may, to discuss that.
Please do.
Back when alternative treatment centers came into existence, the feeling was that they should be treated as charitable organizations from a regulatory standpoint in New Hampshire because of the transparency that is given to those organizations. There's also a regulatory feature over at the Department of Health and Human Services, but we in the Attorney General's office are not involved with that. As Senator Avard noted, these organizations aren't treated as traditional nonprofits. The Internal Revenue Service does not permit them to get 501c3 status as charities because at the federal level, marijuana is still a classified substance, and so they cannot get that status. But because of the statute, they are required to register and report to us, and their tax returns, their business tax returns are available for public inspection with us. And we have required that in order to get additional information on conflicts of interest, we require reporting to us on all of that. We don't, again, have a position on whether these entities should or should not be allowed to become for-profit businesses. Our only concern, and it is addressed in this bill, is that if there are any net assets in these entities at the time of conversion to a for-profit, that those net assets be used for a charitable purpose. One red line that we have is that assets, once they are in the charitable sector, can't go into the business sector. They can't benefit individuals. So what language was worked out, and it shows that beginning at line 30 on page 2 of the bill, and this is the only piece that I would want to make sure remains in the bill, is that if there is going to be a conversion, that the entity first do an appraisal to determine the value of the enterprise. Now, I think other speakers may tell you that, in fact, the net value is negative because they've had to borrow so much money and that there is no net value. But if there is a net positive value, that amount of assets go to a charitable purpose, and we would oversee that. And this provision beginning at line 30 on page 2 requires the organization to, again, get a valuation and then to submit it to our office, and we have 60 days from there to object if we think it's not a good valuation. So that's the only piece of it that we're concerned about.
Thank you, Tom. I've got a question. When the application process started, it was a requirement they were nonprofit. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And there are application was based on that fact. By making them for-profit, wouldn't that be the state giving licenses and creating small monopolies on the sale of medical marijuana?
You would be giving licenses, and there's a limited number of licenses that are available. So there's in a sense, you're giving a franchise or to a limited area. Yes, that's correct. To a specific area.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Cameron?
Okay, the next person on the list is Michael McLaughlin. Michael, you should be able to unmute yourself.
How's that?
We can hear you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Michael McLaughlin. I represent Sanctuary ATC. Sanctuary has been licensed since March of 2015. They operate 2 clinics, one in Plymouth and one in Conway, and they have been serving the patients in the North Country since that time. The bill, as testified earlier, is really a very limited bill. There's absolutely nothing in the bill which would change any of the regulation and the oversight of the therapeutic cannabis business in New Hampshire. What has happened in the last 5 years is we've seen the growth of other sources of cannabis, recreational and therapeutic, in the states surrounding New Hampshire. The business structure of the New Hampshire ATCs has been such that the significant capital they must raise comes at a very high price. All of our surrounding states have marijuana and cannabis sources that are funded by traditional methods. They borrow commercial money at low rates. Under the New Hampshire situation, you have debt holders who must be paid every month. That money is then unavailable for expansion and or reduction of prices in the New Hampshire market. The New Hampshire market has been successful in helping to reduce opioid addiction and in chronic pain. And we see each year an impetus to put in additional qualifying conditions to help New Hampshire citizens. So I put in written testimony and analysis of bill line by line, and the bill looks complicated on the outside, but most of the paragraphs are specifically designed for that time when they convert from a not-for-profit to a for-profit domestic corporation or a New Hampshire limited liability company. So the machinations of getting from the not-for-profit into a corporation or a not-for-profit into a LLC is the bulk of the bill. It's important to know that in the bill, an ATC can remain as a New Hampshire voluntary corporation, which is a not-for-profit. For just reference point, in the 2018 HHS report on the financial situations of the ATCs, of the 3 ATCs, they had more than $13 million in debt that they were forced to service. Even if you're paying 5 or 6%, that's a tremendous amount of capital that leaves the system and is not able to provide the services necessary. The bill, the history of the bill, as was alluded to earlier, was passed by the Senate and the House in Senate Bill 145 in 2019. The governor vetoed the bill and used his rationale was afraid of the commercial industrialization of the New Hampshire market. In the bill today, there's a prohibition for sale of any shares or memberships for at least 3 years if an entity converts. And when we talk about sales to foreign corporations, a foreign corporation in the language of the bill is simply a corporation that's organized outside of New Hampshire. So if you look at the bill, we're talking about domestic limited liability companies, domestic corporations, and the prohibition against foreign corporations is not the huge marijuana company from Canada, but a corporation organized outside of the state. The bill is, originally when we talked about forming the New Hampshire Alternative Treatment Centers in the not-for-profit status, I've researched throughout the country. There are several states that have therapeutic cannabis as not-for-profit and several that have them as for-profit. And if you dig really deep, there is really no reason that the not-for-profit status helps anybody. It doesn't help the patients. It doesn't help the business. It's what I would say is an undue regulation on a New Hampshire business that forces it to charge higher prices to New Hampshire citizens. My written testimony and analysis of the bill is available. I sent it to everybody last night, and I hope that there are any questions I'll be able to answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, Mike, you mentioned some of the ATCs could stay not-for-profit. How many of them would, if this was passed?
There was a discussion moments ago with Tom Donovan relative to the exclusivity or monopoly of the state market. I only represent one. Sanctuary is enthusiastically hoping to be able to change to an entity that would allow it to get equity investors who they would then not pay on a regular debt service business. The state already controls the access to therapeutic cannabis and through the regulatory situation. So they decided the different areas. First, they chopped the state into 4 regions, and they decided due to the population, which they would give is only one license for a certain area. You could have more than one dispensary. For instance, our license is in District 4. We have 2 dispensaries. It costs a tremendous amount of money to set up the second dispensary in Conway. The same thing with some of the other people participating. I think Temescal is opening a dispensary on the west side of the state. Again, tremendous impact on capital. So the who would stay as a nonprofit? I can only speak for Sanctuary, who is hopefully looking forward to being able to have equity investors, lower prices, and get better service through the North Country by being able to get that product out. It's a business bill. All the regulation, all the structure and supervision, nothing changes.
Thank you. Any questions from other committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. Cameron?
Okay, the last person on my list, and I'm certain I'm going to pronounce your name wrong, and I'm deeply sorry, is Shan Leininger. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, yes, you were closer than most. It's Sean.
Sean, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Sean Leininger. I'm Director of Retail for Temescal Wellness of New Hampshire. So we operate 2 of the 4 alternative treatment center licenses in New Hampshire, with the therapeutic cannabis production facility in Manchester and dispensaries in Dover and Lebanon, and soon to be our satellite location in Keene. We are in support of SB 38 because of the good it would allow us to do for our patients. This change would not alter any regulations, but would mean that every single month we have more money to be able to lower prices meaningfully for New Hampshire patients, more money for product development and for education. We operate in a very strictly regulated industry, and we are not proposing any regulatory changes here, simply the ability to restructure our business in order to stay viable in the rapidly evolving markets around us, solely that we can better serve New Hampshire qualifying patients. We are required to operate as a nonprofit, but as others mentioned in their testimony, we do not get the same benefits of a nonprofit. Instead, we are not allowed to borrow money from traditional banks. So we must instead borrow from individuals and end up paying upwards of 18% interest. So that significant amount of money could be far better spent by lowering prices for our patients and help keeping New Hampshire patients in New Hampshire. There is, as I'm sure everyone is aware, an aggressive and targeted marketing campaign coming from Maine dispensaries and the Maine Caregiver Network to entice New Hampshire patients to purchase cannabis there instead of from their designated ATC. There are regular print and radio advertisements in our local communities telling New Hampshire patients that Maine is the best place for them to get quality and affordable cannabis in the area, boasting that they're just 20 minutes from downtown Dover, offering to help New Hampshire citizens get a New Hampshire card just so that they can purchase in Maine. And we've even had New Hampshire patients report to us that they received a discount at the time of purchase in Maine, specifically for being a New Hampshire patient. So the main issue is that Maine and Massachusetts are both able to undercut our pricing due primarily to the differences in structure. Neither of those states require cannabis businesses to be nonprofit. We have patients report to us daily that they are purchasing product in Maine and Mass solely due to lower prices. We actually conducted a survey this year, and of those who participated, 1 in 3 patients reported purchasing cannabis out of state, and over 50% reported price as the reason. Patients don't like crossing state lines with cannabis product, thereby violating federal law. Patients don't like spending their money out of state rather than in New Hampshire. And patients don't like that they have to question whether product they purchase has been tested, whether it's safe, and whether it's the same dose that they had last time. They also, prefer the education that they get from the New Hampshire ATCs as opposed to going out of state or using the black market. They prefer coming to us. They prefer to receive proper education and compassionate care. They prefer quality tested product. They prefer to follow the law. However, New Hampshire patients are receiving relief for their qualifying conditions from cannabis, and they need to go with what they can afford, which I think we can all understand. We are hoping that the state of New Hampshire can see the damage caused by more and more patients in the New Hampshire Therapeutic Cannabis Program crossing state lines to purchase their cannabis. The risk of breaking federal law, the lack of education that they receive outside of their designated ATCs, and the questionable safety and consistency of products that they're purchasing. Requiring us to be a nonprofit just severely restricts us in an industry where access to capital is already severely limited. As a nonprofit, we cannot raise equity. We are limited to raising debt, which, like a mortgage, means that every single month we are paying interest and principal. For a capital-intensive operation like ours, where we invest millions into cultivation and manufacturing, Temescal is sending 1/3 of our revenue back to lenders. And we just know that these monthly debt service payments mean higher prices for our patients. We do pride ourselves on providing quality cannabis products for our patients, ensuring consistency and safety with independent laboratory testing. We pride ourselves on the level of education and support that we provide our patients, which they continually report day in and day out. We have so many stories of the many patients that, report this huge change to their lives thanks to the Therapeutic Cannabis Program. We know that you all have recognized how cannabis can help New Hampshire patients. We're just asking that you help them get easier and more affordable access to the relief that cannabis brings them. The only thing this bill would change is how we are able to acquire capital. Again, no regulatory changes in this bill. That's not what we're asking for. The most critical thing this bill would allow us to do is lower prices immediately to help New Hampshire patients be able to stay in New Hampshire and receive safe, quality, affordable products and the education to match. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. Cameron?
Senator, that's everyone I have signed up to speak. However, Michael McLaughlin has raised his hand to speak for a second time.
Sure, let him.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only wanted to mention one thing. There is in place today a patient affordability program throughout all of the licensed ATCs. And speaking for Sanctuary, we have discounts for veterans, for people on Social Security disability, for Medicaid, and for low income. And in 2018, total discounted price was $347,000. So the ATCs do participate, and they do try to lower the price as best they can. So we're not all charging 100% retail. Just want to make sure that everybody knew that the prices are, we try as hard as we can to get down. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We also had Senator Ward in favor, in support, not wishing to speak. Senator Waters in support, not wishing to speak. Ruth Ward also known as Senator Ward, signed in twice. She must be very favorable on this bill. And Teresa Rosenberg in support. Jess Edwards, representative in support. And Michael Holt is neutral from DHHS. And no other speakers, no one else wishing to speak. We'll close this hearing on Senate Bill 30.
We have 8 minutes until Senate Bill 44 is scheduled to begin.
I'll move executive session.
Session moved by Senator Bradley and seconded by Senator Susie.
Sure.
I'll move on to pass on,
Need to vote to go into executive session. I
I'm
believe.
sorry. Thank you.
Senator, can I run this committee, please? Thank you. Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
Senator Bradley,
Yep.
Senator French says yes. Now I'll take it.
I'll move on to pass on Senate Bill 38.
Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. Senator Bradley,
I
would you like
think
to
that,
discuss it?
yeah, no, I think this is an important bill. As the people that testified spoke, it will allow them to raise equity as opposed to just debt financing. I think if we're going to try and lower the cost of medical marijuana in the way that we provide medical marijuana, we have to do everything possible to lower that cost. I think this will be helpful. I hope it'll be helpful. I've said in the past that if we can't get the cost of medical marijuana, which is medicine, to go lower, eventually I think people are going to support Grow Your Own. And I'm not sure that that's the right thing to do. So that's why I think that this is a good thing to do.
I myself, we've heard this before. I think last year, maybe the year before. My problem with this bill is these entities were set up as nonprofit, and the competitive bidding application for that was based on the fact that they would remain nonprofit. If we allow them to go for profit, we are creating small monopolies in the state. I would prefer to reopen the bidding process as for-profit entities and let other corporations and other people enter the bidding process. So I'll be voting against this on those reasons. Anyone else? Take the roll. Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Senator Gannon.
No.
Senator French says no. 3-2. Who wants to take it out? Senator Bradley, would you like to take it out?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. We still got 6 minutes. Good. I'll be back. Take a break, folks.
Should we come out of executive session first, Senator French?
I move we come out of executive session.
Thank you.
Yeah, Harold, you got to run the meeting.
I didn't say I had to run it correctly. Senator Susie motions to come out of executive session, seconded by Senator Bradley. Senator Bradley.
Yes.
Senator Susie.
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Senator Gannon.
Yes.
Senator French says yes. Thank you very much. We'll see you in 5 minutes.
Senators, I don't know if you can hear me. It is after 10:20 if you're ready to resume.
Back. Cameron, we ready?
I'm ready.
We'll wait for Senator Kavanaugh. There he is.
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, call the committee out of recess. We will take up Senate Bill 44. There's Senator Khan in the House.
He is Senator Khan. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Good morning, Chairman French and my fellow senators. I'm Jay Khan, Senator in District 10, representing 15 of 23 towns in Cheshire County. The COVID-19 pandemic has ravaged our national workforce. The number of New Hampshire people filing for unemployment and unemployment insurance during the pandemic has grown from a few thousand to over 100,000 and back to 30,000. And many others have simply left the workforce. We can't be certain how many people in New Hampshire are underemployed or unemployed, but it's a big, scary number. We can be certain that the jobs many people left are not the ones to which they will return. Many people will exhaust their unemployment insurance benefits in the next few months. Our legislative work this session needs to help people re-enter the workforce with credentials that qualify them for the jobs that are in high demand and that lift our state's health and economic recovery. Over the past 4 years, New Hampshire has completed 6 workforce sector analyses in healthcare, advanced manufacturing, technology, trades, automotives, and hospitality. All but hospitality still have openings. Employers and the Department of Employment Security have identified the jobs most needing to be filled. And the community college system in New Hampshire has introduced certificate programs to provide job entry into these sectors. Licensed nursing assistants and licensed practical nursing at RVC at River Valley Community College, electric line worker credential program at Manchester Community College, and a microelectronics boot camp at Nashua Community College are examples of such programs. One of the companies benefiting from the boot camp, Hitchner Manufacturing, hired 239 positions in 2020 alone. Their vice president for human resources says Hitchner is looking for one reliable, respectful, and ready to learn workers. The New Hampshire Workforce Pathways Program described in Senate Bill 44 would support pathways into short-term workforce training programs based upon Virginia's Fast Forward program, which is designed to train Virginians for industry credentials and certifications for the most in-demand jobs. Most programs take between 6 and 12 weeks and are flexible so students can complete certification while they work. Building on Virginia's program, Utah introduced upskilling and reskilling to provide short-term training education programs to furloughed, laid off, dislocated, underserved, and other populations affected by COVID-19 to fill employment gaps related to industry needs. And if you want to look at the state-by-state comparison, the Education Commission of the state's website can do that. Having gone through many of those, though not all, it appears that New Hampshire lags behind most other states. Taking a step towards filling that gap, Governor Sununu authorized the use of CARES funds for a community college system of New Hampshire tuition assistance program this past fall. Of $6 million allocated in late July, very close to the start of the semester, $3 million were spent this fall semester. New Hampshire's Workforce Pathway Program legislation goes further and defines criteria for high-demand workforce certificates. And in the bill, it says they must be necessary for job entry, portable and recognized by multiple employers, competency-based, convertible to credit, and lead to an industry-recognized or Office of Professional Licensure and Certification license credential. Virginia's Fast Forward program, in effect since 2016, demonstrates this program will save employers money in recruitment and training, and it'll fill their workforce needs. This bill does not try to prescribe the programs or funding. The Workforce Pathway Commission will identify how to apply Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act funds, unemployment security training funds, and federal Pell Grants to post-secondary education to offset the costs of certificate programs and providers, and make sure that providers who prepare unemployed and underemployed for those high demand jobs. So it will provide the tuition assistance for the people going into those trainings. For instance, Pell Awards are scheduled to increase to $6,400 for 2 semesters this year. The community college system in New Hampshire's tuition is $7,500. So some mix of program dollars will need to make sure that the programs are compensated fully for people going into these certificate programs. And the federal criminal record prohibition that has been on Pell Awards has now been lifted by federal legislation, which makes corrections an important partner to this program. Career Technical Education Centers offer adult education and trade certificates. They're part of the program. The BEA houses workforce development staff and need to be part of the program. Together with the community college system and employment security job work sites, these partners can expand upon the tuition-free assistance program begun by Governor Sununu this past fall. I asked the Commerce Committee to continue the expedited process for approval of Senate Bill 44 and support our New Hampshire employers, workforce, and economic recovery. Expedited action will facilitate participant recruitment and assessment, financial assistance packaging, and course and certificate program scheduling to launch this as quickly as possible. Present to provide testimony or answer your questions today are Susan Heward, Community College System Interim Chancellor and past President of Manchester Community College, Jeremy Hitchcock, the Community College System Board Chairman, former CEO of Dine and technology entrepreneur, Dick Anagnost, longtime chairman of the state's Workforce Investment Board, in which I served for many years. And under Dick's leadership, the board sponsored the workforce sector studies on how to best fill New Hampshire's workforce needs. Present today is from the Department of Employment Security, Legal Coordinator Marie-Helene Balinson. And I believe also some of the workforce sector initiative leaders are also present. Mr. Chairman, I'm concludes my testimony. I'd be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Senator. As this is to address the COVID-19 unemployment problem, should there be a sunset on this commission?
Perhaps the commission would see that. I gotta say, in Virginia, this has existed for 4 years. They've demonstrated that 90% of the people going into the programs are completing them. The point is, certificate programs provide the first rung on a ladder towards a career. This is a good idea, whether we've got a crisis that compels us to look for these good ideas or not. It's been saving employers about $5,000 per person employed by pre-qualifying them through these certificate programs. And it creates a pipeline into high demand workforce. So long as people are entering into these high demand programs, and we continue to monitor which programs and jobs are of high demand, this pipeline should be something that can continue and provide that kind of tuition-free portal without further investment of state funds.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Cameron?
Okay, the next person on my list is Susan Hurd. Susan, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good morning, Senators, and thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of Senator Khan's bill. The community college system worked diligently with the senator on this particular bill. We are in favor of it. It essentially focuses on a major part of the work that we already do. Senator Khan mentioned a couple of the certificate programs. I'll speak about the line worker program. As the senator indicated, I'm the retired president of Manchester Community College, having served there for 10 years. During that time, we entered into a partnership with Eversource and with the IBEW Local 104 to create a line worker pre-apprenticeship program. The students that have gone through that program, their entering salary after less than a year of education is approximately $75,000. And the average line worker earns well over $100,000 based upon overtime. This is a great example of what we can do with a short-term certificate. And in fact, Manchester continues to work with Eversource, and the next certificate that you'll see coming forward is for a substation technician. More and more, to bring people back to work, we need to offer them short-term certificates that allow them to make a living wage and give them the opportunity to come back to college if that's what they want to do, to secure a longer length certificate, ultimately an associate degree, and keep the pathway open so that they can move into a bachelor's degree and beyond if that's what they and their industry are looking for. Similar example can be made of the microelectronics boot camp that Nashua Community College has done with BAE for the last several years. In fact, they are meeting the need of that particular company, and they've been able to expand to other area companies to give people, again, that basic start. What this commission would do for us is put all the people that we need in the same room at the same time to speak about not only the needs, but how it is we attract our fellow New Hampshire residents to these programs. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions you might have, talk about other programs that we have. One last example, and that would be the LPN program that the senator mentioned. The community college system had been in the licensed practical nursing business until 2013, the last program closed. And the reason it closed was because the hospitals shifted their emphasis from associate degree prepared registered nurses to bachelor's degree prepared nurses. And there didn't appear to be a pathway for people who were LPNs. Well, life has gone on, and most of our long-term care facilities and many of our smaller hospitals use LPNs. And so we've once again built the pathway. There are 3 classes at River Valley, and the program is being expanded currently to Lakes region. We intend to take that LPN program to other parts of the state as the need is identified. And that's the model that we would use as we embark on the work called for in this bill. We would create the program at one of our colleges and move it around to the 7 colleges and the 5 academic centers that make up the community college system. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about this.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members? Senator Bradley.
Yeah, good morning. I guess, first of all, have you coordinated this bill and what you're proposing to do with Taylor Caswell and the Bureau of Economic Affairs?
We have made them aware of it. Yes, I've been speaking with Will Arvello, the Deputy Commissioner, about this. We've also spoken with Taylor about how it is that we will offer credentials in these areas, and we're going to be moving into the use of badges that then can be essentially turned into college credit should a person agree to go forward.
Further question?
Go ahead.
So just looking at the language on the program established on lines 28, 29, I'm sort of struck by the fact there's no fiscal note, but there obviously is a cost. Can you explain to me how, those cost items are dealt with? I mean, obviously there was CARES funding that went to the community college system, but how, in the absence of, new funding like this, does the program continue to function without a cost and without a fiscal note?
Thank you for the question, Senator. To replace the CARES Act, the federal government has now created CRRSA, CARISA, which is giving each one of our community colleges funding. There's actually more flexibility to the funding that is coming through from the federal government this time. In the CARES Act, all of the funding was linked to student aid and was linked to Pell Grant eligibility. The CARISA grant is more expansive, and so we will have more opportunity to fund programs such as this. Now, granted, that is limited money, and we will have to look for additional money. As Senator Khan said, there's been an expansion of the Pell money, and there's been the revitalization of what's called the Second Chance Pell, which is a program for people who are incarcerated. We have been in conversations with the Corrections Department about our ability to do this. So certainly more funding would be grand, but we feel we have enough to at least get started. We're also hearing that there will likely be another round of what were the TACT grants, which the community college system benefited from enormously in the Obama administration. We have 3 federal apprenticeship grants. So while there's not a specific pot of money that is identified, we believe that we have adequate funding. We will also work with the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation and other foundations. We've also asked for some additional funding in our budget proposal. So I think we will be in good shape for the next couple of years to fund this, sir.
Anyone else? Thank you very much for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Okay, next on my list is Jeremy Hitchcock.
Hello and good morning.
Welcome.
My name is Jeremy Hitchcock. I'm a resident of Manchester, and as Senator Khan introduced, and pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with you all senators. I formerly was at Dyn, where a company I co-founded, a high-tech company in Manchester, and currently working on another high-tech company called Minim, which is doing software Wi-Fi management, selling products under the Motorola name. Also serve as a trustee for the community college system, and also currently its chairperson. I want to speak in support of this bill around continuing the momentum of training. As we all know, the workforce and pandemic have really shifted the dynamics and the number of people who are in the workforce, which I think of as the lifeblood of our economy. Before the pandemic, we had approximately 600,000 people in the workforce. At its minimum was 490,000. And we're currently at 550,000. So we're approximately 50,000 people less working today than approximately a year ago. And as was previously mentioned, I think Senator Khan was discussing and talking about we don't know what unemployment is, and the figures and time has not really been that long since the pandemic started. But I think we all know that there's a huge dislocation of labor, probably the greatest dislocation of labor and people and workforce that we've ever seen. And I see this bill as a way that we can take advantage and strengthen our economy, because you have many, many employers who are still looking for workers and are just short of a little bit of training to find people who are applying for these jobs who may not be completely qualified, but are very close. This really built on the sector partnership initiatives and provides a high level of focus, promotion around this notion of rapid retraining statewide. We've spent a great deal of time with Virginia and how they've structured their program. As Chancellor Heward has alluded to, there's a lot of efforts that are already in the mix, whether it's around coding, whether it's around construction, whether it's around medical programs. And this bill, I think, helps codify that and really puts a focus around that promotion of those programs statewide. And that's one of the key successes that the Virginia program spoke to, is that the statewide awareness of we're open for business, we have the workforce here, gives both employers and prospective employees an opportunity to see that they can get ahead and they can be in successful jobs. And whether the training is in health and medical, manufacturing, high tech, hospitality, construction, all of those areas, we feel that we have a need and a desire to get those people back to work. I think it'll also help in our retention and recruitment of the workforce in the state of New Hampshire, and it builds on some of the positive net migration trends that we've seen in having a highly skilled and highly productive workforce. So I'd be happy to answer any questions and really look forward to seeing the progress of this theme continue on in the state of New Hampshire.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony today. Cameron?
Okay, the next person on my list is Dan Bennett. Dan, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commerce Committee. Nice to see you all, and thank you for letting me briefly express NHADA's support of SB 44. As you know, NHADA is a trade association representing the motor vehicle industry, about 500 businesses, both franchised and independent. Workforce is a cornerstone focus of our association. We have an education foundation that has long worked with over 20 New Hampshire high schools and the 5 community colleges on automotive education. Over the years, we've scholarshiped over $400,000 to New Hampshire students to help them start their education and careers, to pay for credits, get a startup toolbox and tool set up, so they can really get working. Certificate programs in the auto industry have been very successful for entry level, but also for folks to specialize in, say, things like power sports or motorcycles. As mentioned, we support SB 44 as it's modeled on a successful initiative in another state. And we believe it'll help create a timely, available on-ramp for employees into some of these critical industries that really do need it. A nimble, accessible, homegrown workforce is really key to our ability to successfully operate our businesses. So we thank Senator Khan and those that he's been working with, and we hope for your support on SB 44 and think that it's a great piece of legislation. So with that being said, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions? Senator Gannon?
Senator Gannon, you're muted.
Senator Gannon?
Thank you. Dan, how you doing today?
Morning, sir.
Good. We've met a number of times. Foss Motors, in one of your members, he does all this on his own. Larry tells me, and his son, they'll hire, they'll train. Why does the government need to get involved? And isn't unemployment at 3.5%? And when all the auto dealers I know will take someone out of high school, they'll do the training, they'll get them there. Why does the government need to get involved in this?
Well, what we believe is this will make it even more accessible. It'll help train even more. Larry may be able to, and Mr. Foss and his son Tim may be able to do that for the one entry-level lube technician that they need. But the demand is much, much greater. You know, there's multiple businesses, whether it's 2 employees or 200 in the back end of the service department that need employable folks that have a basic skill set. Once they do get into the shop, there is folks have come up with some pretty innovative mentoring programs, under the wing of a veteran technician. However, there needs to be a basic skill set. And that's what certificate programs are. They give an introduction to allow an individual to pursue their interest. Maybe the individual starts in the certificate program and realizes maybe they're more into supply chain management, and so they're better fitted in the parts department. Or fiscal oriented, so maybe they're better in the front end, in the finance and insurance office. But there has to be an on-ramp into the industry. And this offering that's being proposed creates that short-term, this isn't a 2-year college degree, it's a short-term on-ramp to get folks into the industry, and the industries similar to ours that need the workforce.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Dan. Cameron?
Okay, the next person on my list is Roxy Severance.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to speak in favor of this bill. My name is Roxy Severance, and I work with the New Hampshire Healthcare Association on healthcare workforce development and as the healthcare sector partnership advisor for the Sector Partnership Initiative, and also for the New Hampshire Needs Caregivers. The Sector Partnerships Initiative is a business-led workforce initiative. Currently, there are 5 regional groups meet monthly to strategize on how to grow the healthcare workforce in their regions and also reduce barriers that exist. New Hampshire Needs Caregivers is a grant-funded initiative to recruit and train 700 LNAs for New Hampshire nursing homes, and this goal was pre-pandemic. In the first 2 weeks of January, New Hampshire Needs Caregivers and the Sector Partnership Initiative assisted New Hampshire Employment Services with hosting 4 regional healthcare-focused virtual job fairs. 70 healthcare employers from around the state listed that they had 8,200 job openings, and there were only 379 job seekers signed up for these job fairs. And only about 60% of the job seekers signing up actually attended these job fairs. The healthcare sector does not have enough people to fill vacant positions to care for New Hampshire's residents. It takes about 3 to 6 weeks to start a healthcare career by becoming a licensed nursing assistant. Starting wage for an LNA is between $12 and $15 an hour. Those that want to move along the career pathway and become an LPN, earning between $18 and $21 an hour, can do so through the community college system of New Hampshire program out of River Valley College. This program was developed as a direct result of the community college listening to the needs of the Sector Partnership Initiative Healthcare Business Partners. We estimate that there are about 1,000 unfilled LNA positions in New Hampshire nursing homes. As you no doubt know, LNAs are used in hospitals and home health agencies. Barriers to becoming an LNA are that there are not enough programs across the state. With COVID, nursing homes are reluctant to allow LNA students in their building for clinical training, and many of those wanting to become LNAs do not have the approximately $2,000 to pay for the training up front. They can be reimbursed through the state, but that is after the course is taken, the training is done, and they've worked 1 day in a nursing home, and then it takes them about 4 to 6 weeks to get that reimbursement. New Hampshire's nursing homes would be happy to pay up front for LNA students, but they are not allowed to be reimbursed. The regulation has not changed, and it greatly affects the number of LNAs coming into the field to care for New Hampshire nursing home residents. Establishing New Hampshire's workforce pathway and commission is critical to the future of New Hampshire being able to provide healthcare services to New Hampshire residents. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Cameron, anyone else wishing to speak?
We've had 2 folks sign up after we started this morning.
Go ahead.
The next one on my list is Dick Anagnost, who also just raised his hand. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Interesting.
Okay. He raised his hand, but he doesn't seem to be able to unmute himself. Let me move on to the next person, the other person who signed up, which is Michael Plower. Let me find him here. Let's see. Maybe that's supposed to be Michael Power with a typo. Michael, can you unmute yourself, and are you the correct person who signed up?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Well, first, thank you, senators, for the opportunity to be included in this under these trying circumstances. I'm Michael Power. I worked many years for the state of New Hampshire in a variety of roles, including tourism director and the president of the Workforce Opportunity Council, and then I directed the New Hampshire Job Training Fund and the Sector Partner Initiative under several governors. I am supporting Senate Bill 44, and I was asked by Senator Khan just to provide a brief detail of how we came about researching the sector partner initiatives within the major industries of New Hampshire. When we got a grant from the Department of Labor to initiate sector partnership initiatives, we went through a process of organization and research that had been done by about 37 other states in the country with sector partner initiatives. Once we completed that, we formed the sector partner initiatives, and the first thing we had to do was do a deep dive on New Hampshire employment needs. And thanks to the resources provided to us from a variety of sources, most notably Commissioner Kapadas at New Hampshire Employment Security, we conducted the deepest dive into employment needs probably the state had done. And we came up with the sectors according to that research. And they included, as I stated before, healthcare, construction, hospitality, tech talent, and manufacturing. It was a very successful program. We also partnered with private industry for this effort, with organized labor, with the BIA, with groups that normally don't get along with each other, but they work together on this. And the sector partnership utilized funds from the community college system of New Hampshire, from their apprenticeship New Hampshire grant, from the $2 million job training fund, which, by the way, distributed over $12 million to over hundreds of New Hampshire employers who just couldn't afford to train their new employees. So it was a very successful program. I think Senate Bill 44 helps coordinate even more the resources that are going to have to be necessary to find and train quickly those people who have been affected through the COVID crisis, ex-felons or prisoners, and low-income people who just need that help. With funds also provided by the Workforce Opportunity Act and other resources, I think this program is wonderful. I would make two suggestions before this commission gets together to do another deep dive on our employment needs. I would add a member of the public to the commission if that's possible, and perhaps a member from organized labor, because they were instrumental in helping us with training needs. And I'd also really support the development of training certificates. They are now being done in a lot of states. They're job-ready certificates that a person can put on his or her resume. They're electronic, they're transferable, they're available for credit at a community college system. This bill addresses all of those things, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming, Mr. Power.
Thank you.
Cameron?
Okay, let's try Dick Anagnost again. Can you unmute yourself this time? There you go.
Thank you, Cameron. I'm technologically handicapped, so I missed it the first time around. Mr. Chair, thank you for allowing me to speak today. Esteemed senators, I'm actually here speaking on in a couple of different capacities. First of all, I am born and raised in the state, and I am a large employer in the state of New Hampshire. Secondly, I spent close to 2 decades as the state's workforce chair, resigning about a year ago. And I'd like to speak in favor of this bill. I'd like to compliment Senator Khan for keeping his word and bringing forth this legislation, which started as a small discussion during our sector strategies deep dive that you've heard described here today, which was done under my watch. And this Pathways bill will give our community college another tool to allow them to fill the positions that we need in the state of New Hampshire through a structured, recognized credential that will essentially tell an employer that someone has met a certain level of competency. I don't know much about competency being totally incompetent, as my wife regularly tells me, but the fact that Bedford High School, where my children just graduated from, now grades with competencies as a portion of each grade, this now just carries over to allow employment to be able to grade competency pre-hire. Another thing I'd like to point out is the fact that Pathways was considered a best practice as a result of these structured sector strategy deep dives that Mike described, and that this is another way to not only train people for the jobs that are there. I know Senator Gannon said we have 3.5% unemployment. Well, if you were to check today on the number of jobs available in New Hampshire, you'd find that 3.5% couldn't fill all those jobs if those people were qualified to get those jobs. The credential also allows a lot of flexibility. I mean, how many people do you know got a 2 or 4 year degree and then never ended up using what they went to college for because they didn't end up liking what they tried? With this credential, you could try multiple different disciplines of demand within the employment sector in very short periods of time. Okay, you could go into automotive, you could go into hospitality, you could go into multiple until you found the one you wanted. And another thing that this credential will do is, and this is facts brought forth during our deep dive, is if you have this credential, it does lead to further education to the 2 and 4 year degree. And as is described, I don't want to pun, it's a pathway into the future. But what it does is it takes high school students, real time recent graduates, gives them an opportunity to get into the workforce where they need to work, they desire to work, without going through the 2 or 4 year program that may be necessary, and allows them to test the market to see where they want to go. A lot of them may want to go to college, some of them may not. Some of them may not have the means to go to college. Some of them may not have the desire to go to college. But the fact remains is this credential or the credentialing program will allow them the opportunity to determine where they will end up. It'll help not only unemployment numbers, but it'll also help employers. The secret sauce of the Job Corps that we brought here was the liaison between the Job Corps and employers. Okay, they went to the employers and they said, what kind of workers do you need? Well, we'll train them for you. Placement after. This gives the community college the opportunity through certificates to do placement. Okay, so it not only helps our unemployment numbers, it also helps the employer fill the positions that they require. Our 3.5% of the people that are underemployed or I'm sorry, let me recharacterize that. We have a lot of underemployed within that number that would drive that number higher should they be fully employed. It will help the underemployed become more fully employed. It will help reduce our unemployment number. It'll help the employers fill those positions. And above all, I'm a big supporter of second chances, both for recovery and coming out of the penal system. It will put qualified people, and those people are qualified. They've made mistakes. It'll put qualified people back into qualified jobs. I'm not in favor, Senator French, of a sunset, because this is something that we started working on pre-COVID. Okay, for 6 years, we worked on these sector strategies to get to this Pathways program. And a sunset will only defeat the reasoning and a lot of work that was done by a lot of people in the strategy drill downs that wanted to get a Pathways program in place, not just for COVID. It happens to be convenient that COVID is here. One of our biggest problems was always funding. It appears that Susan and Jay and Jeremy have figured out how to meet that funding requirement. So therefore, I'm not in favor of a sunset program. There was one other point I wanted to make. So I'd like to go back to just to reinforce one thing. This will give the community college system the ability to create synergies with employers directly, as the Job Corps does. Okay, one of the things that's always been lacking in the 2 decades that I was workforce chair was education wasn't in touch with what business needed, and business needed things, and education wasn't flexible enough in a 2 or a 4-year program to be able to meet those needs. I mean, when we needed welders, or we didn't have the ability without somebody going through 2 years of a program to get welders. Okay, there was a huge demand for welders at the time. As the people came through, the need went away, but the fact remains was we weren't nimble enough to act quickly. What the credential does, it allows you to fill those high demand positions really, really fast with someone that's met a minimum competency. And if they like those positions and the employer likes them, it allows the employer, like Foss Motors, to take them through their training programs. But this is the introduction, therefore the acronym Pathways. I'd be happy to take any questions, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. And I'd like to compliment Senator Khan once again for bringing this forth, as he promised to do when he was a member of my board.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank
you. Cameron, is that about it?
I have no one else signed up to speak. However, Caroline Isabel has raised her hand.
Okay.
Caroline, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. My name is Carolyn Isabel, and I too am here to speak in support of the bill. I am the Director of Workforce Development for Dartmouth Hitchcock Health. And I think, as you all know, and healthcare workers are in demand like never before. We have critical shortages. And unique to healthcare, most entry-level roles require some type of certification or licensure. The Pathway program would work to address this challenge. And for those that are not ready to start in any specific trade like LNA or medical assistant, the readiness programs really help to build confidence and build bridges to employment for those participating. Over the last few months, we have seen a significant drop-off in the number of individuals seeking employment. And I think a lot of this ties back to the uncertainty that people are feeling and an inability to start something new. At the same time, it has never been more challenging to pursue employment because of the challenges of remote school and accessing childcare. The Pathway program is key to helping us re-engage with individuals that have dropped out of the workforce, even in a short-term way. I'd also like to speak to the track record that the community college has. They really do have a proven track record of recruiting, engaging, and training individuals for high-need areas. And I cannot speak to their level of commitment and partnership with employers so that the training they're providing directly feeds into our organizations. As I said, I think that this is it's a great opportunity for our state and our region, and selfishly for healthcare.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. We also had those in support that did not wish to speak: Senator Rosenwald, Senator Hennessy, Nicholas Duffy, Nicole Forty, and Suzanne Prentice. I would like to close this hearing on Senate Bill 44. That's it for today. I would like to,
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
yes,
could we go into non-public to act, excuse me, into executive session to act on this bill?
I'd like to hold this bill, Senator, just for next week, but I would like to go into executive session to, and have a motion for reconsideration on SB 18, if that's possible.
From last session?
Yeah, from last session. That was on the farmer's market bill.
Yeah, I had a question, Senator French, on that. And it just was a small thing.
I'm sorry, there does need to be a motion to go into executive session.
I apologize. A motion to go into executive session.
Second,
I'll second.
and Kavanaugh second. Senator Bradley? Senator Bradley? Senator Bradley?
Sorry. Yes.
Senator Susie?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Gannon?
Yes.
Senator French says yes. Senator Gannon, you had a statement?
Yeah, it was just a small thing that bothered me on 18. It wasn't really going to the bill itself. When we talked to the head guy from the state and other stuff, they mentioned that we were going to give preference to local, which I enjoy that, with local liquor sales manufacturers and stuff. And while I appreciate helping New Hampshire businesses, maybe Senator Susie, as she's an attorney, she may be more knowledgeable on the comedy clause, that you can't favor one group of citizens of one state over another or businesses over another, that we're supposed to treat all people equal. So it's just a little thing that it came up a couple times, that we were going to give preference to liquor manufacturers from New Hampshire over other states. Well, I appreciate helping New Hampshire businesses. I don't know if that's fair or legal. So I question that.
So can I have a motion for reconsideration? That's what you're asking for?
Or if Senator Susie, do you have any knowledge of that? Is that illegal? It bothered me that I thought I was doing something that wasn't legal.
Well, I mean, I'm not prepared to give you a legal opinion, but I think what the commission said is that they would try to give preference. Obviously, if someone were right over the border, I don't think this legislation is exclusive. But I think showing preference to our local businesses is something we do in a number of places in our statutes.
Okay, I'm willing to let it go, Senator French. It just was an item of law that just bothered me a little, but we don't need to bring it up again.
And I would just add that we've been doing this for other adult beverages at farmers markets, beer and wine in particular. If there were a problem, I think we would have known that. So I don't see that it's an issue.
That's fine. I'm gonna let it go.
So on Senate Bill 44, I like the concept. I want to do a little more on it prior to executing it. If no objections, we'll hold that over for next week.
Can I also say a couple of things on 44? I think there is probably some merit to it. I would hope that the community colleges would reach out to the Bureau of Economic Affairs. I think what's important is that job training dollars not get carved up to a point that they're just not working. And if I think that employment security and others may offer some of the same things, that doesn't mean that this doesn't have a lot of merit. So that would be the first thing. I still think that this bill needs to go to finance, and I want to see something that talks about how it's going by the community colleges, how they're going to finance it in the long term, especially if they do not want to see it sunset when after a point in time, there may not be any, CARES type of federal funding to do this. So I think the chair is right in holding this bill for a week, but during that period of time, I think, the community colleges have some homework to do on those two scores. Better definition of the funding and, working with Taylor Caswell.
Great. Could I have a motion for coming out of executive session?
So moved.
Moved
Second.
by Susie, seconded by Kavanaugh. Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
Senator French says yes. Motion to adjourn?
Move, we adjourn.
Second.
Susie, motion to adjourn. And Susie,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Senator Gannon,
Yes.
Senator French, yes. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Harold,
everyone. Have a good day.
Call?